Futures Brizio here, and I just noticed my camera's not on. Apologize for that. I don't know if I can turn it on now, so we'll just go without it. It was from last week. Last video I made, it wasn't on. I forgot to flip it back on. So, anyways, that's okay. Certainly not the important point here. So, as always, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. We're just going to jump right in here and do a little analysis. Just continuing using the currency strength indicator in Forex on higher time frames. I am experimenting a little bit using it on a bit shorter time frames in currency futures, but not in Forex. Okay, in Forex, I'm just sticking to 12-hour daily chart. But I will experiment with this a little bit, somewhat in some of these other markets. So we'll jump over to Forex first. And I did want to just show you these are the three positions I currently have open on my Forex funded accounts. This is just one of the three that I have, but the other ones are all pretty much the same. I'm currently long the Euro Canadian, short the CAD yen, and short the Swiss yen. Okay, that's all I've got open right now and running on these three accounts. Okay. So with that in mind, we'll go back over to Trading View. And if we look at Euro Canadian, we'll start with that. And we're going to go to the daily chart. Okay, so we have this crossover that actually happened. This was a late entry for me. This crossover actually happened a week ago, back on March 23rd. I was not following the Euro Canadian. I just added it to my watch list. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest with you, but I just thought I would add it in here because this is a pretty mechanical system. And, so anyways, I added it. So there actually was a good crossover here. This is kind of like a really nice crossover when it happens after a big separation like this, where it was trending down again. Just to plant you again, the blue line is the second currency in the pair, and the orange line's the first. So this is the CAD, this is the euro. Okay, so we had this big separation, this impulsive move down, and then we had this crossover that happened again a week ago, pretty much like on this bullish candle right here. That's when it really kind of confirmed. But you can see what happened is after it went up, it basically moved sideways for the next several sessions, really until today. Um, so even though this was a late entry, I still felt like it was an entry I could take because the market really didn't go anywhere after the initial run up. Okay, it was on this candle, and you can see it went up a little further the next day on last Tuesday, a week ago. It went up slightly more, but you can see since then it went nowhere. We had like 4 trading days here where it was completely flatlined. And so because of that, like I said, that's why I felt like I could still take the trade even though it was late. Because I talked about on previous videos that I don't like to take these and chase them. If the market has already moved, in the direction of that impulsive trend for more than 2 or 3 days, I generally don't like to chase it. Okay. But in this case, like I said, it really didn't go anywhere after the initial crossover, and so I decided to keep it. All right, so that's why I'm in this trade. And what else are we? Did I say CAD yen? Here's Swiss yen. Swiss yen again. We had this crossover. We had the market kind of like pinwheeling in here since about mid-March, the last 2 weeks, just kind of up and down, no real direction. But, again, just looking at, I don't look at this indicator in a vacuum. I'm looking at the trend here, and we obviously were trending up. We hit this high here, we pulled back, tried to make another, we made another run up, we came back to that high, pulled back again, made another run up. So we had basically 3 rejections off of this level around this, what is that, around 203.70. We hit this level, and the market rejected off there multiple times between February 9th and March 12th. So over the course of a month, basically, we had multiple hits at this level and rejected, and now heading down. Now, all during that time, we had no short signal, anywhere in here. The short signal just finally came um, last week, basically around Tuesday, Wednesday of last week. And again, it didn't really go very far. I took this trade, I think, on Friday of last week. I entered this, and I'm still in it, and I will probably continue to hold it. Okay. So whether this ends up being a reversal or just a bigger correction, assuming that I'm right and I don't get stopped out of it, which is always possible, then we'll have to see. But I do think that again, I don't trade these in a vacuum. I look at the price action. I look at what is it doing here, and again, this is the daily chart, so this is a long time frame, and I'm just looking at multiple rejections off this area, which are, again, on the higher time frame you go, the more meaningful these rejections are. I mean, a rejection like this on a 15-minute chart or a 1 hour chart doesn't really mean anything, to be honest. But on a daily chart, it's got some meat behind it, right? Because, the most of the real big money movers that actually move the market, they're not trading on short time frames. Okay. They're taking long-term positions, and they're looking at these currencies individually, and making fundamental decisions. Anyways, that's why I'm in this trade. And then the last one was CAD yen, uh, right there, and CAD yen is going down. And again, this this crossover basically happened yesterday, which is when I took this trade. Now, this is still theoretically in an uptrend. You can see I have this line drawn right here. This is basically the market structure low, right? This is where price came back to, ran up to this new high, and now is heading down. So whether this continues through this level is a big question. I entered this one with a little bit of caution, because to me, we haven't really broken the uptrend yet. Now, you could say, on a shorter time frame, we came down here, tried to go up right here, rejected. So theoretically, you could say that this right here is a lower high, and now we're heading down. That is very valid. It's more obvious on a shorter time frame right here. You can see this trend down. Okay. Whereas all these other corrective moves were pretty much, straight down and then bounced off support and went up. This starting to look more trendy, right? But, ultimately, we haven't technically, in my opinion, violated the uptrend yet. You switch over to Heikin-Ashi candles, and we can see clearly we still have this big uptrend, moved up here. We only had one bearish Heikin-Ashi candle in this last run up right in here. So this little candle right here is actually a potential management place, because this shows you where there was a big enough pullback that the Heikin-Ashi candles turned bearish. So if I was looking for an initial profit target or a management point for this trade, it's probably down around here. And then, I'd probably tighten it up if I, move my stop into profit, or at least break even, if not into profit, and then see what happens when price gets down here. If it kind of impulsively pushes through there and it can come down here and take out these lows, then obviously it'll go a lot lower. So I'm in this one, but I'll keep a close eye on it. So as it moves lower, and again, that's this candle right here, as a potential management spot if price gets down into this area right here, which, on a daily chart, this would probably take at least a couple more days for it to get there. But certainly I would say it's possible for it to hit this week. So, all right. So those are the three trades I'm in. That's why I took them. Just quickly scanning. I don't really have anything else right now that I'm really too thrilled about. We do have this Aussie Canadian, which was on my watch list, where we had this little crossover right here, which should be pushing this pair down. Um, but again, this is the Aussie Canadian, and I'm looking at more Canadian weakness, which is why I'm short CAD yen and long euro CAD. And so that's a little bit of a conflict. Plus, I don't really see this Canadian dollar line like really, if this started to really push higher and like ramp higher, then that would, of course, change my bias on this. Would also give me concern for those other two trades too. But you can see they're both kind of flatlined and not really doing much. So I didn't put a lot of weight into that. Um, Pound Canadian is still trading inside this very big range right here. Again, we did have this bullish crossover, price, and they've now come back together again. So this is could be one of those magnetic push-offs where, they come together and then the orange line bends back up. We have the blue line bending back down. Uptrend continues. It does look like that right now on the current daily candle. And again, this is another Canadian dollar pair. So weakness in the CAD is going to push this thing higher. Uh, but overall, just it's still inside this big range. It's not really trending. Um, I have not taken this one, but I'll keep an eye on this today and see how we end up the day here, and see if we can get these two to start diverging away from each other, and then maybe I would think about entering a long here. So, U.S. dollar Canadian again, another Canadian pair. US dollar still continues to rally. We are at some resistance. I was in this trade. I closed it at this resistance level. I still think it's probably going to go higher, especially if the CAD keeps weakening. We do have a lot of US dollar news coming out this week. Just looking at Forex Factory really quick. Um, we had CAD, and this is probably what's causing a lot of the CAD weakness, although it was a positive number. We had CAD GDP that came out earlier this morning. Um, it was better than expected, but still pretty weak. And then we have U.S. Jobs, Jolt's job opening, which is not the major job news. The major job news is going to happen on Friday with NFP. But we've got that. And then tomorrow we've got retail sales. We've got ISM manufacturing PMI, which is basically like inflation for the manufacturing sector. And then unemployment claims on Thursday, which again is not the major one, but it can be a precursor to Friday, which is non-farm payroll on Friday. So it's a big dollar week. And so just keep that in mind if you're trading US dollar pairs. But right now, this thing is kind of sitting at some resistance. If it looks like it's going to continue bullish, and especially if we can again get this Canadian dollar to start angling down a little bit, I might think about re-entering that. But I'm out of it right now. We have some diverging happening here on euro dollar. In fact, I'm going to write that down in my little journal on my watch list because you can see we have the U.S. dollar rallying. We came together, and now both currencies were kind of rising. So this is not normally a signal I would take because both lines were rising. But now we have, at this point, it seems like the dollar is still curving up, and the euro maybe starting to curve down. Okay, and so right now the pair is going up, so that's against this setup right here, which is, again, when they're both kind of trending upward, I tend to just ignore those signals anyways. It's not a true crossover because they're heading in the same direction. But if we start to get divergence here again with the euro starting to really angle down and the dollar continues to go up, then that is a potential short, but it's not right now though. Euro Aussie. I did close my Euro Aussie trade yesterday at this resistance level here, uh, but this is still valid, and I will probably look for re-entries here. Here's the 4-hour chart, and this was this support level right here, this 4-hour market structure level, which looks like it's going to hold, and it looks like this wants to push higher. So that's another one I'll put on my list. I like that one better than the euro dollar short, but we'll see. Euro CAD we already talked about. I just want to go through these quickly. Um, so there was a long entry here on pound AUD, which I was in. That one I'm out of now too, from about here. But again, and now we've got the pound kind of pointing down. So a re-entry here is probably not in the cards for me unless we start to get this to bend back up again. All right, just quickly going through it, really nothing. I'm just looking really at current. I'm not going to go back and look at what's already happened. I'm looking at current pricing and current actions. Nothing there on this pair. Again, this there was an entry back here, but there's nothing now. All right, and so on and so forth. So here is pound US dollar again going down. Again, this split right here. All right, now we have this pullback today. This is probably weakness in the US dollar today because they're still, diverged from each other. Of course, we're in the middle of a daily candle. So these are not going to update until the end of the day unless I turn on the live feed, and you'll probably see them trying to bend back towards each other. If I turn on live feed, yeah. So, but that's just being caused by dollar weakness today, not necessarily strength of the pound. And so, let's see what happens on this. Whether we get a continuation of the strength in the dollar to push this down lower, but there's nothing there currently right now. I don't want to go through all these. You guys kind of get the point. Um, Aussie yen again. This is just general strength with the yen right now. Um, is We have this divergence right here on Aussie yen. Put that one's actually already on my list. Kiwi yen's probably the same way. Yep. Euro yen. Euro yen, not really too interested in, with them kind of both heading up like this. Swiss yen, we already talked about. Dollar yen. Dollar yen is, an interesting one to watch. Now, they're nowhere near crossing each other. They're both heading upwards. But if the dollar, turns and we get kind of a top in the dollar, and then these two cross, this would be a good potential setup in the futures. Nowhere near ready for that right now, but that's just one to watch. Aussie Swiss, both of them are pretty much down in the dump right now. So nothing really going on there. And then pound Swiss. Indicator's taking a long time to calculate this one. I must not have looked at it in a while. Nothing really going on there. Okay, and then dollar Swiss. Again, the last entry was way back here. And, it's still a good trade if you were in it. That's another pair I just added to my watch list. It's part of the reason why it's way down the bottom here. But I'm going to put it up next to the Euro USD because they're inversely correlated. All right, so yeah, so that's quick analysis on Forex. We just flip over to futures, change the game really quick here into the grain markets. So if we look at this is, and again, guys, you can ignore this indicator right now. It does not apply to grains. All right, so if we look at this is soybeans. So here's the index, the COT index, still in the net long position here, angling down a little bit. So we'll see what happens with soybeans if we fall to a 4-hour chart. You can see we had this after this big run up. We did break market structure with this move down. We took out this structure here. We had kind of a double top sitting up here, and then we broke structure. Now we're just kind of range bound inside of here. This is the 4-hour chart, and we're just kind of range bound in here. So I just don't like trading ranges. I know people say you can trade the bounces in between. It's just not something I do. So I'll be waiting to see if this breaks out, and I'll watch the COT data. But this probably isn't anything that I'm going to trade probably at all this week, just the way it looks. But we need to see some sort of breakout. So is this going to be just taking a little pause before the real move down starts? I think that remains to be seen. But certainly the signs with the market structure break and the COT index potentially rolling over and starting to come out of that overbought, or that net. I shouldn't call it overbought. That's the wrong phrase. That net long position, which is down here. this green line. Anything above here is where they're super net long. These two start to bend and come out of this area and fall back under this green line on a weekly basis. That would be very telling for at least you know a shorting opportunity for at least a few weeks, anyways. All right, and then on corn. So corn, basically is looks like it's trying to start trending down. We have this market structure here on the 4-hour chart, when trending down. If we look at COT data, though, we're still very much net long this market. Commercials are still very heavily net long here. So we'll see what happens when we get these updates. Um, from let's see, let's look at some daily structure. But you can see, we've got multiple attempts to go higher all through this kind of 470 area. Has really been really hard. The market had, since beginning of March, has made multiple attempts to try to break higher, and or at least come back to this high around 407, and it hasn't been able to do it. There have been two higher highs with these wicks, but you can see they both of them pulled back well inside the range. So this is starting to look more bearish to me. And so but there's a lot of potential swings here. We've got this swing low, it's approaching. There's another one here, although I don't really think either one of these are too valid because neither one of them led to new highs. So to me, this low down here, and certainly this gap right below it, is probably more of the, even though this is a really wide area, this is probably, more likely where the market will reach for, probably down into this area, if not to fill this gap. So, and then we'll have to see what happens. So because of that, I'm potentially looking for counter trend trades in the meantime on this, but I don't have a setup right now on this 4-hour chart. This is where I will start to look at like stochastic RSI to come back up into overbought and then look for an opportunity to short. So if we get another pullback here somewhere before we get down to this orange box, we get another pullback and the stochastic RSI comes back into overbought, then I'll look for a short entry. But again, this is probably my target area down in here because we are still overall in a bullish trend uh, by the COT data. Okay. And then lastly on wheat, um, again, we look at the COT, still very much net long. It started to come down a couple of weeks ago and it's just bent back up and it's still well into that net long position here. Um, but the fact of the matter is we've been range bound here for several weeks. So even though we're net long, the market has not been able to break these highs right here. You can see many, many attempts to get through this level around, what is that, around 615 or so. It's just been stuck there. And every time it comes up, it just, maybe wicks through, but comes right back into the range. So doesn't mean it's not going to break it eventually. We are still, see it from a COT standpoint, we're still very much net long. And if we look at recent price action, still, heading higher. So, um, but I would like to see it clear this zone and start moving higher again. But, I think you have to remain net bullish on this market until it tells you otherwise. So, lastly, just really quick, not going to spend a lot of time. These are currency futures. Now, these first three are all versions of the euro, so they're all going to $1 million. So again, the way this works, because these are currency futures, so this is just the Australian dollar currency futures. And so this line right here is the DXY. So this is going to be kind of a steady on all of these charts. Okay, this is the DXY, and this is the Aussie futures. And you can see from here there was a big short, and so there's not really anything going on here right now. This is the 4-hour chart. I can also look at it on the daily. So with these futures, I will go down to a little bit shorter time frame. I'll sometimes trade this off the 4-hour, especially because you're looking at these currencies in isolation instead of as a forex pair. And so obviously there's a good entry here, but it can be very noisy. Again, you go to these shorter time frames, you do get more noise. You certainly can continue to just use the daily chart. It certainly will limit your opportunities, but the more reliable signals though. But again, on currency futures, I will go to a 4 hour time frame or somewhere below the daily to look for opportunities. So that's the um, that's the Australian dollar. Here's the New Zealand dollar. Again, if we go to the 4 hour, it's going to look very similar to the Aussie. We did have a sell opportunity that happened way back here. Okay, so nothing really doing on that right now. British pound, same thing. Again, these are all against the dollar. Again, so this blue line is staying the same on all these charts because this is the DXY. That's what I have it compared to. And then the orange line is whatever the asset I'm looking at, which in this case is the pound. All right. Swiss franc, okay, shorting opportunity back here. This was this was, this area right here around March 25th was great to short all of these things. Okay. The yen has got a little bit more strength. That's why, you see the yen pairs in Forex, selling off for the most part because the yen is picking up a little bit of momentum here. And then the Canadian dollar, big shorting opportunity that happened back here again last week. All right. But nothing really doing right now. Okay. So that's about it on currency futures. No active trades for me on there at the moment. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to jump in here and provide that update. And those are I showed you the forex pairs that I'm in right now. That's it. I'm in those three. We'll see what happens. I do have some other ones on the watch list that we went over. I'll keep an eye on those for potential adds to the portfolio. And and then, like I said, we'll keep an eye on grain markets. Nothing active for me to trade on any of the grains right now, as at least on the time frames that I use. And these currency futures have already, kind of trended out here on these current moves. So, all right, so I'll leave it there, guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And any questions, comments, leave them down below. And smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back tomorrow. Okay, take care. Have a good